This MOOPIL series of Texas A&M University is provided through Project LISTO. Literacy-infused science using technology innovation opportunities. The video series is comprised of experts in the field talking about their research while making important contributions to the art of teaching in the K-12 environment. Project LISTO is funded through a competitive I-3 grant from the U.S. Department of Education Investing in Innovation program. The LISTO project is a collaboration among the Center for Research and Development in Dual Language and Literacy Acquisition, Education Leadership Research Center, and Aggie STEM.
Hi, my name is Dr. Heather Greenhalgh-Spencer, and I'm an assistant professor of curriculum and instruction at Texas Tech University. My area of research focuses on teaching and learning with technology, especially in global contexts. What I wanted to talk about today is creating more global awareness in our science courses. And I'll do that by focusing on projects we can do in our science courses on e-waste. Before I get to that, I wanted to focus a little bit on the ways that increasingly science is becoming integrated and aligned with the idea that we need to have more global awareness. We need to understand that science is about global collaboration, and we need to be able to teach our students how they sit within this globally collaborative process we call science. So one of the things I wanted to focus on are some of the institutions and bodies that are really trying to help us bring together global awareness and science education and really focus on the way that science has always been and is increasingly becoming an endeavor with global collaboration. The National Science Teachers Association, or NSTA, the National Research Council, and the Partnership for 21st Century Learning and Skills have all really been advocating for new curriculum, new pedagogy, new ways of teaching to try and integrate global awareness and global skills within our science curriculum. In fact, NSTA released this statement, and you can see it on the slide. Rapid changes in the world, including technological advancement, scientific innovation, increased globalization, shifting workforce demands, and pressures of economic competitiveness are redefining the broad skill sets that students need to be adequately prepared to participate in and contribute to today's society. NSTA recommends that the science education community support 21st century skills consistent with best practices across a science education system, including curriculum, pedagogy, science teacher preparation, and teacher professional development. And then you can see the reference for that quote there. And then, as I mentioned, the Partnership for 21st Century Skills and Learning have also put together a framework. And this framework is actually meant to show ways to integrate 21st century skills and global awareness across all core subjects, but they have some really interesting areas for science education as well. If you notice on the slide, you'll see the graphic for their framework. Their framework has 4 components: content knowledge and 21st century interdisciplinary themes. The idea that knowledge should no longer be siloed. It's a good idea, in other words, to have your science course do something with your social studies course, and maybe do something with your ELAR course. The idea is to bring these knowledge sets together to solve real problems. Their number 2 part of their framework is learning and innovation skills, then information, media, and technology skills, and finally life and career skills. So the projects I'll be focusing on that really allow us to integrate global awareness and science education focus on e-waste. Now, before I get to that, I wanted to say a little bit more how these projects fit within the P21 framework. So as mentioned before, the P21 framework includes interdisciplinary themes, and they list those as global awareness, financial, economic, business, and entrepreneurial literacy, civic literacy, health literacy, and environmental literacy. And the e-waste projects I'll be focusing on really help us to develop awareness and skills in the global awareness, health literacy, and environmental literacy areas. Also, P21 framework focuses on learning and innovation skills, and they list these as creativity and innovation, critical thinking and problem solving, communication, and collaboration. And again, the projects on e-waste that I'll focus on really integrate all of those skills. The P21 framework also focuses on information, media, and technology skills, and they list these as information literacy, media literacy, and ICT literacy. And as you can see on the slide, I believe that these e-waste projects really integrate information literacy and ICT literacy. The P21 framework finally focuses also on life and career skills, and they list these as flexibility and adaptability, initiative and self-direction, social and cross-cultural skills, productivity and accountability, and leadership and responsibility. And the e-waste projects I'll be talking about really focus on initiative and self-direction, productivity and accountability, and leadership and responsibility. So it's been my pleasure and my honor to be involved in a lot of different schools that have really tried to use e-waste as a theme within their science education. And they've done this in lots of really unique and interesting ways. And I'd like to share 3 projects that come to mind as exemplars, things that you might be able to do in your school and in your classroom. I'd like to focus on a 5th grade project that I saw where the students were able to put together an education night and an e-recycling bin and station for the recycling of our electronic devices. A 6th grade project that integrated world geography and science in an interdisciplinary way, focusing on e-waste. And an 8th grade project that brought together technology productions, or actually building technology and science, and the projects that were developed from that. Before I talk about the projects, just so we're all on the same page, what is e-waste, in case you haven't heard of it? So e-waste is waste that is created through the use and disposal of electronic devices. Just about anything could be considered e-waste, from our refrigerators and really anything that uses electronics. But traditionally, e-waste, when we talk about e-waste, we're thinking about things like printers, laptops, computers, phones, our digital devices. When we're done with our phone or our digital device, hopefully we send it to a recycler that is credentialed by the Basel network. The Basel network goes out and credentials and makes sure that the recyclers are actually refurbishing or recycling these electronic devices in a responsible way and in a way that is safe. Usually, though, we don't do that as consumers. We tend to send them to Goodwill or some other space, or even throw them in the trash and just hope that someone else will know what to do with them. Well, often those devices get put on a boat and sent to developing nations. And in developing nations, there are rarely the codes and laws necessary to protect workers and to make sure that these devices are dismantled in an ethical way and in a safe way. And so a lot of times what happens is, as these devices are dismantled, and you can find, important minerals and metals that can be sold, and that's one of the reasons why they're valuable. For some people, it is worth the risk to their health to open up these devices and pull out the valuable parts and then sell them. However, as they do that, these folks get exposed to cadmium, chromium, brominated flame retardant, PCBs, a lot of really harmful chemicals that pollute the air, they pollute the water, and they pollute the soil. And we know that they can lead to cancer as well as many other diseases and malfunctions of our body. And so we want to make sure that we are disposing of these in a safe manner so that we are not contributing to pollution and really negative human consequences to those in the global south. It's really important to realize that the disposal of electronic devices often leads to pollution of water and soil. And these pollutants can stay in the water and soil in such a way that even those people who aren't doing this as a job, when they go to get water from a well or plant crops in the soil, the crops and the water suck up those harmful chemicals, and then people are exposed to them again. And as I mentioned before, this can lead to a lot of really negative consequences. If you notice on the slide, we know that by and large, the routes that this e-waste dumping follows go from developed nations to more developing nations. And by and large, it's global north distributing to the global south. So you can see the graphic there about kind of where our e-waste tends to go. So in order to think about this, think about human consequences, consequences for the environment, what our personal responsibility is in this, ways that we can think about bettering our society and still learning about this phenomenon through science, is to think about projects that really focus on this. So this is where I'll say a little bit more about some of the projects with which I've been involved. So the first one I'll focus on is a 5th grade project that I was a part of. The 5th graders were learning about e-waste as part of their science standards that focus on environmental causes, as well as chemicals, as well as the water cycle, some of the other basic scientific concepts that they learn in 5th grade. And their teachers told them about e-waste and showed them how chemicals can stay in the water and become part of that water cycle when pollutants have infiltrated the water. And so as a project they learned about e-waste and the environmental damage and the consequences it has for humans. And then the students designed a presentation to create awareness around this issue. They presented the presentation to their fellow classmates, to 4th graders and 3rd graders, and this was really helpful. It increased their communication skills and helped them to think about their audience. And then they also did a presentation for their parents, for their families. The school put together an education night. And at that time, the students presented the knowledge that they'd gained to their parents and other members of the community. The teachers also facilitated a connection between the students and a local e-recycler who was certified by the Basel Network. And this recycler put up bins around the school and also offered to collect electronic devices and dispose of them properly at that education night. So in this way, the 5th graders learned a lot about different scientific concepts, but they did it in a way that helped them to be better citizens of the world and have greater global awareness as they learned how what we do here affects those in other countries and affects our environment as a whole. They also increased their communication skills and their responsibility skills. So I really advocate this as a great project to use with our 5th graders, and again, really focusing on e-waste as a global problem that leverages the content knowledge we learn in science. The next one I want to focus on is a project that I saw with some 6th graders, at least in the state where I am. 6th grade in your social studies curriculum is world geography. And the science teacher and the world geography teacher thought it would be really great to form some interdisciplinary projects. And e-waste was a really great way to do this. The students learned about e-waste and about harmful chemicals, what they were, how they reacted, what their human consequences were. They learned all of this in their science courses. They also learned about the way that pollution of waterways and land has human consequences. And then they were able to take that knowledge, and in their world geography courses, they were able to see the routes from developed nations to developing nations and the routes that e-waste follows. And then the science teacher and world geography teacher decided to create groups where students would work to come up with reports that focused on the consequences for specific developing nations. My recollection is China was one of them, India was one of them, and I think Kenya was one of them. And the students were able to find out more knowledge. What's going on here? Why is e-waste a problem? What are the real material consequences for some of the people who live in these specific nations? Why is it that these specific nations are places that accept e-waste? All of these questions were brought to the fore, and they really allowed some really intelligent and engaging discussions about this phenomenon, e-waste, that really leveraged the knowledge both from world geography and from science. And then they were able to share these projects with parents. Again, this really allowed them to use that interdisciplinary knowledge to gain skills and understanding in communication, in ICT, in technology, in environmental literacy, all of these things that are part of the P21 framework, they were able to really develop as part of these projects. And finally, I'd like to focus on an 8th grade project. This is sort of similar to the interdisciplinary projects that I just talked about. But again, in the state where I am, 8th graders are allowed to go to a class that we call technology productions, but really any class that allows students to experiment with technology, understand how it works, would be a similar course. And what they wanted to do is allow students to come up with some sort of device or website or something that they could do to really spread information or to somehow conquer this problem of e-waste. And so students learned about the e-waste and harmful chemicals and environmental damage in the science courses. They also learned about the importance of e-recycling in their 8th grade science courses. And in their technology productions class, I actually thought that they would do a website or something like that, but they came up with something that was a lot more creative. They decided to develop an app. And this was done in partnership with their teacher as well as a company in the community that they brought in to help these students learn how to develop an app. And it's a very simple app. But what they did is the students created an app that would allow a person, a user, to input their zip code, and then the app would find the nearest e-recycling company that would take in e-waste and refurbish it or recycle it properly. And in order to do this, they had to gain technology literacy skills as well as scientific literacy skills. They had to learn how to work for an audience. They had to still learn a lot of scientific content knowledge around this. So again, really leveraging the use of those contents, those knowledge sets, as well as those skills to really focus on real world problems. And the students were able to share this app at a city council meeting. And again, that also helps to kind of engage with the community. So here are just several project ideas that allow us to really bring global awareness and interdisciplinary skills, a lot of those P21 skills, to our science courses. I hope you too come up with unique and creative ways of integrating global awareness and P21 skills in your science courses. And I hope you too think more about e-waste and the ways that e-waste as a problem can be used as a point of interest and as something to highlight and develop questions around within your science courses. Thanks.